The moment I saw my name engraved on a death list at my own daughter's luxury resort, I realized paradise had turned into a trap, and my blood ran cold. The salt-kissed air of the South Pacific carried a serenity I hadn't felt in years. I had come here expecting joy, reunion, and celebration, but something deeper, darker, stirred beneath the beauty. The waves lapped against the hull of my yacht with a gentle rhythm, oblivious to the storm that had quietly taken root in my life. Elysian Isle rose before me like a jewel plucked from the sea, volcanic cliffs draped in emerald jungle cascading down to white sand beaches. At the heart of it all, gleaming in the tropical sun, was the resort my daughter, Chloe, had purchased, and my dream, once shared, had now become a cage. Tavita, our grizzled local skipper, cut the engine and let the boat drift. "She's beautiful, Mr. Vance," he murmured. His eyes, however, weren't on the resort. They were on the dense jungle beyond. "But the old spirits, they don't forgive lightly. They never let go." I laughed, brushing off his warning. Ghost stories? I didn't have time for them. I had built empires, made billion-dollar decisions, and faced betrayal before. A few whispers of superstition wouldn't scare me. Then I saw Chloe. Her fiery red hair glimmered in the sunlight, and her green eyes, so much like her mother's, missed nothing. At 28, she carried the confidence of a CEO, but the warmth of a daughter I hadn't hugged in too long. "Dad," she said, wrapping me in a tight embrace. "Welcome home. It's real, all of it." I felt a surge of pride, holding the woman my dreams had shaped. But even as I breathed in the fragrance of frangipani and salt, a subtle unease tickled the back of my mind, a flicker I couldn't shake. The grand tour began, Chloe pointing out sustainable sourcing plans, high-profile guests, and eco-friendly designs. Everything was perfect, precise, but something was off. When we reached the pool's construction area, the lead foreman, Mick, waved frantically. "Sir, Miss Vance, you need to see this." At the bottom of a freshly dug hole lay a circular metallic hatch, etched with geometric patterns that seemed neither modern nor ancient. At its center was a seamless seam, no handle, no keyhole, nothing. "What is it?" I demanded, leaning in. "Probably just a capped well from the old colonial outpost," Chloe said too quickly, her voice tight, almost rehearsed. She gestured to Mick. "Fill it in, now." Something in her panic, the slight tremor she tried to hide, made my stomach turn. I had taught Chloe to be thorough, meticulous, fearless, but the fear in her eyes was real, raw, and it wasn't meant for construction delays. As the cement poured over the hatch, I felt a cold knot twist in my gut. There was a secret buried here, and I wasn't meant to find it. Later, in my temporary office, Arthur Finch, my lawyer, called. "Robert, Chloe requested a full audit of your personal assets." I frowned. "I approved it. She's thorough." "Thorough," Arthur repeated, his voice cautious. "Yes, but this level of scrutiny, life insurance, stock portfolios, it's unusual for someone of her age." I waved it off. "Chloe's ambitious. It makes sense." But even as I nodded, a tiny voice whispered in the back of my mind, "Watch her." The night before the opening, the island was alive. Thousands of fairy lights twinkled against palms swaying in the tropical breeze. I decided to take a walk to clear my head. That's when I saw them. Chloe and Silas, the new head of security, a cold ex-Special Forces veteran. They argued quietly, an envelope exchanged with a nod that froze my blood. Their eyes locked on mine, and Chloe's confident smile faltered just for a second. That flicker, that shadow of panic, whatever was in that envelope, it was dangerous.
The morning of the grand opening, the island glittered with opulence. Celebrities, investors, and dignitaries arrived, unaware of the tension beneath the paradise veneer. I mingled, accepting congratulations, but each smile felt hollow. Something terrible was coming. A waitress stumbled near me, her eyes wide in terror. She whispered, I didn't know, before almost fleeing. Other guests avoided my gaze with subtle bows, their gestures more condolence than greeting. And then I saw it, a black silk-covered object at the pavilion's entrance, a placard, a tribute to our visionary, to be revealed. Curiosity burned. I lifted the veil, and my world went black. It wasn't a tribute to the resort. It was a memorial, a polished black granite headstone with my name, Robert Allen Vance, and the dates 1965 to 2024. The blood drained from my face. My own daughter had put me on a death list at my resort, and everyone above ground, staff, investors, guests, would see me as nothing more than a legend, a ghost, a name on a plaque. The veil dropped from my hands. Chloe's panic was raw, unmasked, and behind her, Silas's expression was cold, operational. Before I could react, his iron grip took my arm. "Mr. Vance, you're overwhelmed. Let's move somewhere quiet before the speech." I struggled, but the surrounding guests only saw concern. I was led through hidden service corridors, an elevator descending to the sub-basement, and the cold reality hit. This was not a mistake, not a prank. This was a meticulously orchestrated plan, and I was the target. As the elevator doors slid shut, I realized the island's warning had been real. Tevita's words, "It has a hunger. It never lets go of what is yours." This wasn't the island. It was Chloe, and the paradise she had built had turned into a trap. And as the doors closed behind me, the metallic scent of disinfectant filling my nostrils, I knew one thing with certainty. By tomorrow night, the world would believe I was dead, but I wasn't yet. As Silas led me down the cold concrete hallways, I realized that the paradise my daughter built was no longer a haven. It was a cage, and I was the prey. The elevator doors closed behind us with a metallic sigh, leaving me in a narrow corridor lit by harsh fluorescent lights. The air smelled of disinfectant and damp stone, an antiseptic coldness that contrasted violently with the lush, tropical paradise above. I tried to steady my breathing, but each step Silas forced me to take echoed ominously against the concrete walls. The hallway seemed endless. Pipes lined the ceiling, humming with the vibration of machines hidden deep within the sub-basement. Every sound, my own heartbeat, the faint scuff of my shoes, was amplified, a sinister soundtrack to the realization that Chloe's paradise was carefully rigged to keep me contained. Silas didn't speak. His arm on my grip was iron. There was no malice, no cruelty in his expression, just professional detachment. But that was worse. That meant this wasn't a personal vendetta. This was a mission, and I was the target. I finally asked, my voice hoarse, Where are we going?" Silas glanced at me for the briefest moment, his eyes like steel. "You'll see soon enough, Mr. Vance. Just stay calm." I realized that Chloe's ambition had reached terrifying heights. This wasn't just a business move. It was a calculated attempt to erase me from the story of her life. My own daughter had put me on a death list at my resort, and everyone above ground, staff, investors, guests, would see me as nothing more than a legend, a ghost, a name on a plaque. As the corridor ended, a large reinforced door stood before us. Silas keyed in a code on a panel. The door hissed and slid open, revealing a small, sterile room lined with cameras, screens, and electronic locks. It looked more like a high-security prison than a part of a luxury resort. A younger guard followed, closing the door behind us. The air in the room was cold, clinical, suffocating. Silas gestured for me to sit on a reinforced metal chair bolted to the floor. "Please remain seated, Mr. Vance, for your safety and ours." I sat, my mind racing. For my safety or for her plan? The screens flickered to life, displaying camera feeds from various points around the resort. Pools, villas, terraces. Every inch of Elysian Isle was under surveillance. Every movement above me was documented, calculated, and controlled.
Chloe appeared on one of the screens. She stood in the pavilion, greeting the first guests, her face radiant, her smile perfect. But my eyes caught the subtle shift in her body language, the brief flash of panic as she glanced away from the cameras. She had planned this meticulously, and yet even she had not expected me to see that headstone today. And then I noticed something chilling. An envelope, identical to the one she had handed Silas the night before, sitting atop the control panel. My name wasn't written on it, but I knew, instinctively, that it contained instructions, her final, most ruthless plan, and I was the subject. I leaned forward, attempting to peer at the envelope without touching it. Silas noticed. His grip tightened on the arm of the chair. "Do not attempt to open it. It's part of the protocol." Protocol. The word echoed in my head. Protocol for my death. Time stretched painfully. The room's lights hummed overhead. I could hear faint echoes from the resort above, the laughter of guests, the clinking of glasses, the orchestration of paradise. But here below, in the concrete womb, the world was stripped of beauty and warmth. My heart pounded as I realized the depth of betrayal. I thought of Chloe as a little girl chasing waves along the beach, her laughter like sunlight. And now, the woman who had once clung to me for comfort had meticulously planned my erasure. It was a betrayal that cut deeper than knives or fire. Hours passed, or was it minutes? Time became irrelevant. I tried to read Silas's expression, but he remained an unyielding wall of professionalism. I considered escape, even in this small, confined room. But the reinforced steel, the cameras, the presence of another guard made it clear I had no immediate chance. Then my phone buzzed. A message. I had left it with me, somewhat foolishly. The screen displayed a single line. "Check the service elevator. It's your only chance." It was unsigned. My pulse quickened. Could it be Tavita, one of the staff, or had Chloe underestimated someone's loyalty to me? The thought of betrayal and salvation danced in my mind. I had one choice: act immediately or remain a pawn in Chloe's terrifying game. And even as fear threatened to paralyze me, my instincts, the instincts that had built empires, negotiated deals, and survived betrayals, kicked in. I waited for the moment Silas turned, then lunged toward the service elevator control panel, wrenching it from the wall. Sparks flew, alarms blared, the younger guard shouted, but I had a second of precious advantage. The elevator doors slid open, and I slipped inside, pressing the button for the surface. The hum of the machinery vibrated through my bones. Panic surged as I realized that every second I delayed increased the risk of discovery. As the elevator rose, I felt a mix of dread and determination. Chloe had made her choice, put me on a death list, attempted to erase me, but I had not yet surrendered. And I knew, deep in my bones, that the paradise above, as beautiful as it seemed, was now a battlefield. And I would fight to survive, to confront the daughter I raised, and to uncover the full scope of her betrayal. I thought I knew my daughter, but as the elevator doors opened, I realized I didn't even know the woman who built this paradise. The elevator doors slid open with a hiss, revealing a service corridor that seemed longer and darker than before. The faint glow of emergency lights cast eerie shadows against the steel walls. Every instinct in me screamed to turn back, but I had no choice. Above ground, the world of sunshine and luxury existed, but it was also the very place my life was marked for erasure. Silas's grip was nowhere to be seen. I was alone, at least for now. The envelope's message had given me hope, but I didn't know if it was a trap itself. I pressed the button for the surface and waited, ears straining for any sound of pursuit. The hum of the elevator was deafening in its silence. As I stepped out onto the service deck, I realized the enormity of Chloe's deception. The pristine island paradise I had admired, every villa, every pool, every garden meticulously designed to perfection, was nothing but a mask, a carefully curated stage for a plot I had barely begun to understand. And the most terrifying part, the woman behind it was my own daughter.
A chill ran down my spine. Chloe had spent years learning from me, my strategies, my foresight, my ruthlessness. I had thought I had taught her to build dreams, but I had unknowingly taught her how to destroy them too. And right now, she was testing those lessons on me. I moved along the service corridors, careful to avoid security cameras. Every step made my mind race. What was her ultimate goal? Was she trying to scare me? Or eliminate me entirely? My thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the metal doors at the far end of the hallway creaking open. A shadow moved inside. "Dad?" a soft voice called. My heart jumped. It was Chloe, but something was off. Her voice had a hesitancy I had never heard before, a faint tremor that betrayed nerves she usually hid so well. I crept closer, pressing myself against the wall. Peeking around the corner, I saw her, not alone, but talking to a man I didn't recognize. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the unmistakable precision of someone trained in combat. Silas. He wasn't alone either. A few other staff members lingered in the shadows, all eyes fixed on Chloe as if awaiting orders. And then I saw it. Chloe handed a small, sealed envelope to Silas. He nodded once, took it, and slid it into his jacket pocket. Her face was pale, controlled, but her fingers shook. She didn't notice me watching. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. The envelope she had given Silas last night was not a simple instruction. It was my death sentence. Every step above ground, every smile, every welcome home was part of a game designed to see how far I could be pushed before the final move. My daughter had put me on the ultimate checklist: survive or be eliminated. I needed a plan, and fast. I couldn't confront her now. The odds were too stacked against me. Silas and his team were trained professionals. Chloe had the resources, the island, and the element of surprise. I had only my instincts and knowledge of this island. I retraced my steps to the elevator, pressing the emergency stop to stall any pursuit. Every second counted. I had to think, plan, and anticipate their moves before they closed in. The island above was paradise to the world, but it was a labyrinth of secrets and deadly intent to me. As I moved toward the stairwell leading to a maintenance hatch, I noticed something odd, a series of footprints in the dust along the floor. They were fresh. Someone had walked this path recently. My heart raced. Could it be an ally? Someone who opposed Chloe's plot? Or another layer of her trap? I crouched to inspect the prints. They led toward the underground generator room, a place essential to the resort's power. If I could reach it, perhaps I could cause a diversion, create a window to escape or confront her. But the deeper I analyzed the prints, the more I realized they weren't random. They were deliberate, guiding me or luring me into a trap.
My mind flashed back to Tavita's warning. The rocks here, they get inside you, change you. The warning had felt quaint, folklore for tourists. Now I understood its meaning on a visceral level. Chloe had been inside my head, my mind, for years. And this island, every hallway, every elevator, every camera was her tool. She had changed my perception of paradise into a prison. I made my move. Steeling myself, I followed the footprints into the generator room. The room was massive, filled with humming machinery and blinking lights. It smelled of oil, heat, and electricity. I took cover behind a large generator unit, heart hammering. The footprints ended abruptly near the control panel. Suddenly, a shadow flickered. Silas. He had found me. My instinct screamed to run, but I had no cover to escape. His hand rested lightly on the rifle slung over his shoulder, yet the calm in his eyes was worse than rage. It was inevitability. "You shouldn't have followed the trail, Mr. Vance," he said quietly, each word precise. "She won't forgive mistakes." I swallowed hard, trying to mask my fear. "Chloe, what are you planning? Why this?" Silas tilted his head, as if puzzled I would even ask. "She's planning the end of the story, and you're not supposed to be part of it anymore." My blood ran cold. The end of the story. Not a game, not a prank. At that moment, an alarm blared across the generator room. Red lights flashed, warning of an overload. Silas cursed under his breath, moving to stabilize the system. In the chaos, I realized this was my chance. I sprinted toward the emergency hatch leading outside. The machinery roared, shaking the room. Sparks flew. Silas turned, shooting after me, but the explosion of electricity and smoke created enough cover for me to slip into the maintenance tunnel. The tunnel was narrow, dimly lit, and smelled of damp metal. I could hear voices above shouting commands, but they couldn't see me. Every step was a calculated risk. One wrong move, and I'd be caught. Finally, I emerged in a small service courtyard overlooking the cliffs. The ocean glittered below, innocent and serene. But I knew better. Every wave seemed to whisper warnings. "She's prepared. She's ruthless. She's your daughter." And then I saw her. Chloe, standing at the edge of the pavilion, looking down at me. Her expression was unreadable, a mix of fury, disbelief, and calculated triumph. For the first time, our eyes met not as father and daughter, but as opponents in a battle neither of us could retreat from. I clenched my fists. She had tried to erase me. She had tried to trap me. But I was Robert Vance, builder of empires, survivor of betrayal, and I wasn't done yet. The game was far from over. I had always thought my daughter would be my greatest ally, but the moment I realized the headstone wasn't a mistake, I understood I was facing an enemy who knew me better than I knew her. I crouched behind the thick stone wall of the service courtyard, every muscle tense, my heart hammering in my chest. The sound of the waves crashing against the cliffs below mixed with my ragged breathing, a harsh symphony of survival. Chloe's figure above, framed by the bright sunlight on the pavilion, seemed untouchable, untarnished by the chaos she had orchestrated. I had to move, had to find leverage. The small service tunnel that I had used to escape the generator room opened into a network of maintenance corridors. Each step echoed ominously against the metal walls. I had spent years building businesses, negotiating mergers, predicting competitors' moves. But this was a level of cunning, of ruthlessness I had never encountered. My own daughter was playing a game I thought I understood.
I pressed my back against the wall, listening. The voices above carried hints of orders. Staff moving, the soft clink of glasses, and a low, commanding voice I immediately recognized as Silas, Chloe's partner in this twisted performance. They were coordinating something beyond celebration, beyond mischief. My stomach tightened. And then it hit me. The headstone. That wasn't meant for show. It was a signal, a countdown, something hidden beneath the pristine resort, something that would turn paradise into a tomb. And I was right in the middle of it. Every guest, every staff member, every smiling face above ground was unwittingly or willingly part of Chloe's plan. I had to get to her office, the center of operations. If I could access her computer, her files, anything, I might find the key to stopping this before it escalated. Moving through the maintenance corridors, I kept to the shadows, avoiding cameras and the occasional patrolling staff member. My knowledge of Elysian Isles layout, the hidden tunnels, the supply rooms, the emergency exits, was my only advantage. The office door loomed ahead. I peered through the narrow window. Chloe was seated, reviewing documents, her fiery hair glowing under the lamp. Next to her, a tablet displayed schematics of the resort, security layouts, guest movements, even schedules for the kitchen staff. But what caught my eye was the list titled VIP Elimination Protocol. My stomach dropped. Names, dates, even subtle contingency plans if someone interfered. And at the very top, Robert Vance. I swallowed hard, my vision blurring. This was no prank, no twisted joke. My daughter had meticulously planned my removal from the very paradise I had built. And the irony cut deeper than any betrayal. I had raised her. I had trained her to be decisive, to strategize, to never falter. She had taken those lessons and weaponized them against me. I had to act quickly, but as I reached for the door handle, it clicked. The office door swung open. Chloe herself, stepping out with her usual composed elegance, but there was an intensity in her eyes I had never seen before. My first instinct was to flee, but I froze, caught in the electric web of fear and disbelief. "Dad," she said softly, her voice calm, almost too calm. "I didn't want you to see this, yet." "See what, Chloe?" My voice was tight, trembling. "Do you understand what you've done?" She smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I've prepared for the future, Dad. Our future. Everyone above ground, they don't know what's coming. But you always knew how to handle surprises." Her words sent a chill down my spine. She wasn't apologizing. She was challenging me, testing me, and deep inside, I realized she expected me to fail. My mind raced. If I hesitated, if I faltered for even a second, this wasn't just a game. It would be my end. I forced myself to think clearly. I had taught her to predict, to anticipate, to move 3 steps ahead. Now I had to do the same. I needed leverage, a distraction, anything to turn the tide. My eyes darted around the office, files, tablets, phones, and then I saw it. A small USB drive on her desk, glowing faintly under the lamp. The key to the resort's entire security system. If I could access it, I might gain control of the cameras, the elevators, even the hidden tunnels. A chance to fight back. I lunged, grabbing the USB with trembling hands. Chloe gasped, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. But she didn't move aggressively. She just stood, watching, as if she had expected this. "You always were clever, Dad. Maybe too clever." Before I could respond, the lights flickered, an alarm blared, a silent, subtle code only the staff would recognize. In an instant, the office transformed from a calm room into a controlled battlefield. Silas appeared at the doorway, blocking my escape. 2 more guards flanked him, weapons at ready. I realized then that this was no ordinary confrontation. Chloe had orchestrated every step, every contingency, every detail,
And now, with the USB in my hand, I was the final piece in her carefully constructed puzzle. The real question loomed in the shadows of that room. Would I survive her game, or fall victim to the daughter I once trusted with my life? I clenched my fists. The USB was my lifeline. My mind raced with options, every scenario, every potential outcome. The resort above, every smile, every toast, every cheer hid a deadly truth. And now it was up to me to expose it, survive it, and bring my daughter to justice. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. The night of the grand opening had ended. The real game was just beginning. I realized that if I didn't act now, Chloe's game would finish me before I had even a chance to fight back. And in that moment, desperation became my sharpest weapon. The office felt like a cage. Silas's presence at the door was more than intimidating, it was suffocating. The 2 additional guards flanked him like sentinels of doom. My hands gripped the USB tighter, the small device now a beacon of hope in a hopeless situation. Every instinct screamed at me, move, fight, outsmart, survive. Chloe remained calm, almost eerily so. Her eyes, bright green and calculating, followed my every movement. I could almost see the wheels turning in her mind, the contingency plans she had laid down, anticipating every step I might take. But I had one advantage she hadn't considered: the chaos above ground. Guests, staff, and security were all focused on the grand opening. I needed to create my own chaos, a distraction to break free. I glanced at the office door. Silas's hand was on the handle, ready to prevent any attempt at escape. I couldn't overpower him directly, but I didn't need to. A flick of a lighter, a small spark near the old electrical conduit by the corner of the office. It was enough. A hiss of smoke and a sudden alarm above, and the room erupted in confusion. Silas barked commands, trying to contain the situation, while the guards turned their attention momentarily. This was my chance. Heart hammering, I dashed past Silas, spinning into the maintenance corridor I had memorized. Every step echoed against the concrete walls. Every breath felt like fire in my lungs. Chloe's voice called out, sharp and commanding, but it was drowned by the blaring alarm. My mind raced. Every second counted. The USB in my pocket was my lifeline, the key to regaining control of the resort and my life. I ran toward the central control room, a hidden hub beneath the main pavilion. It controlled the resort's cameras, the elevators, the automated systems, even the gates. If I could access it, I could monitor Chloe, manipulate the environment, and perhaps even trap her in her own game. As I approached, my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "We know what you have. Don't try anything. You'll regret it." My pulse quickened. Chloe had eyes everywhere, but now the tables were starting to turn. She may have anticipated my moves, but she hadn't counted on my years of strategic thinking, nor my refusal to become a victim.
Inside the control room, the screens flickered to life. Hundreds of cameras streamed the resort in real time. Guests raising champagne glasses, staff moving in orchestrated patterns, and Chloe, unaware of the digital eyes tracking her every step. I felt a surge of power. I could see everything, anticipate every move, and regain the upper hand. The first task was clear: isolate Chloe. I scanned the floor plans, noting the ventilation shafts, emergency exits, and service tunnels. One move, and she would be trapped, cut off from any of her meticulously planned escape routes. But I had to be careful. One misstep, and it wouldn't just be me in danger, it would end in chaos for everyone at Elysian Isle. Then it hit me. The envelope from earlier. The one Chloe had given Silas in the shadows. Whatever she had entrusted to him, it was part of her ultimate plan. If I could intercept it, understand its contents, I could anticipate her next moves and finally confront her with leverage she hadn't anticipated.
I accessed the encrypted files on the USB. My fingers flew over the keyboard, bypassing firewalls and security protocols Chloe herself had set up. And there it was, a detailed timeline, contingency plans, even notes on how to handle unexpected interference. Every guest's itinerary, every staff member's shift, every system override laid bare before me. And at the very center of it all, a chilling note. Father, if you discover this, there's no coming back. Act, and you'll understand. My stomach churned, but anger and resolve burned brighter. Chloe had underestimated one thing, her father's determination. I now had not only the knowledge of her plans, but also the ability to manipulate them. The question was, how far was I willing to go to survive and ensure she faced justice? I initiated the first phase of my counterstrike, locking down elevators, rerouting staff, and isolating Silas from Chloe. I watched as her plans began to unravel in real time. Each movement she made above ground was now predictable. Every ally she trusted unknowingly cornered. The hunter had become the hunted. And then I saw her, Chloe, pacing, checking her phone, clearly aware that something was wrong. But she couldn't see me, couldn't predict my moves now. I allowed a small, triumphant smile. The final act of this deadly dance was approaching. One misstep from her, one distraction I controlled, and I would finally have the confrontation I had feared and anticipated for weeks. The night of the grand opening had ended. Above, guests celebrated, unaware of the deadly game being played below. But in the shadows, in the labyrinth of Elysian Isle, father and daughter were locked in a silent war. One would emerge victorious. One would face consequences that went beyond disappointment. I tightened my grip on the USB. My pulse surged with adrenaline. Chloe may have designed the perfect trap, but I had become the perfect counter. The final showdown was inevitable, and I was ready. The elevator doors groaned open, releasing me into the cavernous, dimly lit operations hub beneath Elysian Isle. Pipes snaked along the walls, and the hum of servers filled the air like a digital heartbeat. Screens flickered, showing cameras I'd never seen before. Every hallway, every room, every dock on the island meticulously monitored. I gritted my teeth. Chloe had transformed our dream into a trap. Restricted. That must be where they intended to isolate me, or worse. My pulse quickened. I had to act and fast. Chloe, I muttered, my voice a mixture of fury and disbelief. You've gone too far this time. I pulled out my phone, connecting to a hidden encrypted line. My lawyer, Arthur, had given me a failsafe for moments like this. Arthur, I whispered, voice low, they're moving me to a containment point. It's not safe. Chloe, my daughter, is behind this. Arthur's voice was sharp but calm. I suspected something. There were anomalies in the audit she requested. I have access to override the main security protocols, but you need to reach the control room first. Can you do it? I glanced at the monitors again. Silas and his team had a clear path to intercept me. My heart pounded, but I knew the island like the back of my hand. One wrong move and they'd succeed, but one clever move, I could turn the tables. I bolted down a narrow maintenance corridor, ducking under pipes and slipping past cameras. Every step was measured, silent, but my mind raced with the possibilities. If I got to the main control panel, I could lock down the island, cut communications, and expose Chloe's plan to the world in real time. And then, Silas, a shadow fell across the corridor. His expression was cold, unreadable, like a predator confronting prey. "You shouldn't be here, Mr. Vance," he said. "Your daughter has given explicit orders. Step aside." I didn't hesitate. "No, Silas, you should step aside. With a surge of adrenaline, I dodged a grab and sprinted into a side room, slamming the door behind me. Inside, I found an old server console, dusty but operational. My fingers flew over the keyboard, bypassing security protocols faster than I'd imagined possible. Screens lit up with maps, access logs, and live feeds from every corner of the island. And then I saw her, Chloe, standing atop the grand balcony, addressing guests in a dazzling display of charisma, her words polished, her smile radiant. She had the world's attention, but she had no idea that her father was already 2 steps ahead, manipulating the very system she relied on. I hit a series of commands. Doors slammed shut across the resort. Guests were trapped in safe zones. Silas's team froze, alarms blaring. Chaos erupted, but under my control. This was my empire, and now I was reclaiming it. A final command unlocked the recording system. Every action, every instruction Chloe had given, every secret plan she had orchestrated, it was all being broadcast to a secure cloud. Proof. And then, as I stepped out of the shadows, my voice carried over the loudspeakers. Chloe Vance, you are under arrest for attempted fraud, conspiracy, and endangerment of guests. Stand down. Her eyes widened, a flash of pure panic. Silas moved toward me, but the doors locked him out. Every security override I'd initiated gave me control, turning her perfect plan into a cage for her own actions.
You can't do this, she screamed. I shook my head slowly. I'm not doing this, Chloe. The law is, and your betrayal ends tonight. The authorities, summoned through Arthur's secure line, arrived within minutes. Chloe was escorted off the balcony, her confident facade crumbling as her empire unraveled. Guests looked on, bewildered, murmuring about the spectacle of a lifetime. I stood there, overlooking Elysian Isle, chest heaving, mind racing. The dream had survived, but it had been a test, a brutal, unforgettable test. And my daughter, my own flesh and blood, had almost destroyed it. But I had prevailed, and as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light over the island, I felt a bitter satisfaction. No one betrays Robert Vance and lives to dictate the outcome. Chloe thought she could bury me beneath my own paradise, but what I uncovered next would leave her utterly speechless. The authorities had taken Chloe away, but as I walked through the quieted corridors of Elysian Isle, an unsettling feeling clung to me like the humid South Pacific air. Something wasn't right. The memorial plaque, the secret vault, Silas's meticulous planning, it all pointed to a single chilling truth. Chloe hadn't acted alone. Someone else had orchestrated this nightmare behind the scenes. I returned to the sub-basement, retracing every step, eyes scanning the shadows. That sealed vault from days ago gnawed at me. I assumed the envelope Silas carried was just part of Chloe's instructions. But the more I thought, the more certain I became. There had to be more hidden beneath the layers of concrete and steel. I found a maintenance hatch near the back wall, almost invisible under a stack of crates. It had been overlooked during the initial construction. My instincts screamed at me to open it. I pried at the edges, sweat forming on my brow as the metallic resistance gave way. Inside was a narrow tunnel, descending deeper than any of the island's known levels. The air was thick, heavy with the smell of damp earth and something metallic, almost like blood. My flashlight revealed tracks on the concrete floor, footprints, too small to be Silas's, too precise to be random. Someone had prepared this long before Chloe made her move. Half an hour later, I emerged into a hidden operations room I had never seen. Monitors lined the walls, showing cameras I hadn't even known existed. And there, at the center, a figure stood, slender, impossibly calm.
and dressed in black. "Robert Vance," the figure said, voice smooth as silk. "I was wondering when you'd figure it out." I froze. Who are you?" The figure turned slowly, revealing a face that sent a shiver down my spine. "Call me Marlowe. I've been running this island long before you and Chloe ever dreamed of Elysian Isle. Chloe is a player, but I'm the one controlling the board." My mind raced. Every detail suddenly made sense. The timing, the hidden vault, Silas's efficiency. Chloe hadn't been the mastermind. She had been manipulated, her ambition used as a weapon to isolate me. "You're insane if you think this ends well for me," I said, my voice steady despite the terror curling in my chest. "I've built everything here. I'll destroy your plans before you get another chance." Marlowe smiled, a predator's grin. "You're right about one thing. You built everything here. But you see, Mr. Vance, dreams have a way of attracting predators. And yours was too bright, too perfect." I lunged for a nearby console, hoping to disable the monitors, but Marlowe was faster. In one fluid motion, he slammed my hand away, a sharp pain radiating through my wrist. Clever, but predictable. I anticipated that. As he advanced, my eyes caught something, a small keycard dangling from his belt. It was labeled "Final Override." That must control the lockdown in the vaults. If I could grab it, I could regain control, but it wasn't going to be easy. The tension was suffocating, each second stretching into eternity. Marlowe circled me, eyes cold and calculating. "You're resourceful, Vance. I'll give you that. But in the end, the island decides who survives, and it doesn't favor the foolish." Then a thought struck me. I remembered the original engineers I had hired years ago, the ones Chloe had dismissed. They had installed a fail-safe network, a hidden manual override for every digital system. If I could reach the secondary terminal across the room, I might just have a chance. I feigned a step to the left, baiting Marlowe. As he lunged, I knocked over a stack of metal crates. Sparks flew, and the monitors flickered. I dashed across the room, my heart hammering, fingers trembling, as I inserted the override card into the secondary terminal. Lights flashed, alarms blared, and the entire security network began rebooting under my command. The vaults clicked, doors unlocked, and the cameras powered down. Marlowe stumbled, momentarily blinded by the chaos. "I won't let you manipulate my family or my island," I shouted, my voice echoing through the cavern. "Your control ends now." For the first time, Marlowe hesitated, and that hesitation was all I needed. I lunged, grabbing his arm, twisting the keycard from his belt. He growled, but I slammed the terminal shut, cutting off his access. The screen blinked once, twice, and then went dark. Silence. Absolute, deafening silence. Marlowe looked around, panic creeping into his calculated demeanor. "This isn't over, Vance," he hissed. "You may have won today, but the island has its own rules, and you'll see them soon enough." I stepped closer, my hand gripping his shoulder with iron resolve. "I'm the master here. The rules are mine. And if you think I'll let you terrorize my daughter or my life again, you're dead wrong." As I dragged Marlowe to the authorities waiting outside the hidden tunnel, I realized one thing. Chloe was just a pawn, and the real battle had only just begun. But I wasn't backing down. I had survived the trap, uncovered the truth, and now the real reckoning was at hand. I discovered my daughter wasn't acting alone. But what I revealed next would shock even the most hardened criminals. The air felt electric as I escorted Marlowe to the authorities waiting outside the hidden tunnel. Even the ocean breeze seemed charged with tension, as if the South Pacific itself had sensed the storm that had been unleashed. My mind raced, replaying every step of the past week. The black granite plaque, Silas's unwavering loyalty, Chloe's panic, and now this man, the puppet master behind my daughter's betrayal.
Chloe had been taken away for questioning, but I couldn't help but think of her with a mix of anger and concern. She had been manipulated, yes, but she was still my daughter. I needed to know what had driven her so far to risk our lives. The authorities secured Marlowe in the back of an armored vehicle. His calm demeanor had vanished, replaced by a thin veil of panic. "This isn't the end, Robert Vance," he muttered, trying to project confidence, but it rang hollow. "The island, it always finds a way." I stepped back, gripping my daughter's bracelet she had left behind in the office during her arrest. My heart ached. I hadn't realized how close we had come to losing everything, not just the resort, but each other. After ensuring Marlowe was in the custody of the authorities, I turned my attention to Chloe. The interrogation room was cold, harshly lit, a far cry from the paradise of the resort. She sat there, hands folded, trying to mask her fear with defiance. "Chloe," I began, my voice calm but firm, "you were part of something that could have killed me. Explain. Now." Her eyes met mine, green, flecked with guilt and fear. "Dad, I didn't know it would go this far. I thought it was just a way to prove myself, to take control. I didn't think anyone would get hurt." I shook my head. "This wasn't a game. Lives were at risk. You were used, Chloe. Marlowe manipulated you, just like a player moves pieces on a chessboard. Did you ever stop to think what he really wanted?" Tears welled in her eyes. I just wanted to make you proud, to show I could run something on my own, that I wasn't just your daughter in your shadow. I never meant none of this." I drew a deep breath, the weight of the past week pressing down on me. Pride is not worth endangering the people you love. You must understand that. But we're not done. There are questions to be answered and actions to be taken. Back at the resort, I convened an emergency meeting with the staff. The betrayal had left cracks not only in our operations, but in the trust we had built over years. We've been through a lot, but today we reclaim what is ours. Elysian Isle will remain a sanctuary of beauty and safety. Nothing or no one will compromise it again. Security protocols were overhauled, hidden systems revealed and secured. Every entrance, every access point was inspected. Silas, despite his initial loyalty to Chloe, had now pledged allegiance to me, recognizing the importance of safeguarding our legacy. Then came the moment of confrontation I had been waiting for, Chloe's final questioning. "You'll cooperate fully," I instructed, "and tell me everything about Marlowe, his plans, and why you did what you did." She nodded, shaking but resolute. Slowly she began to unravel the chain of events, how Marlowe had promised her control over the resort, how he had instilled fear in her, and how she had been convinced that taking extreme measures would prove her worth. She confessed her every interaction with Silas, the envelope, and even the hidden vault she had wanted to seal. Piece by piece, the truth fell into place. Marlowe had orchestrated a master plan to seize control of Elysian Isle, using Chloe as a pawn to lure me into a trap. He had accounted for every contingency, every variable, but he didn't count on my intuition, my resolve, and my knowledge of the island's secrets. Once the truth was fully exposed, the authorities moved decisively. Marlowe's network of operatives, previously hidden, was dismantled. Assets were frozen, and every potential threat to the resort was neutralized. Chloe, having fully cooperated, faced legal consequences, but with mitigating circumstances due to manipulation and coercion. She would have a chance to make amends, to rebuild the trust that she had broken. I watched her, my daughter, and felt a mix of relief and sorrow. "You have a second chance," I told her softly. "Use it wisely. Never again let ambition blind you to the people who truly matter." Outside, Elysian Isle glowed under the late afternoon sun. Waves lapped gently against the coral reefs, birds called to each other, and the fragrance of frangipani drifted in the air. The resort, our dream, had survived the storm. That evening, I stood on the balcony overlooking the infinity pool, thinking about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the danger, the revelation of hidden truths. It had been a trial by fire, but in the end, justice had been served. My daughter had learned a painful lesson, Marlowe was neutralized, and Elysian Isle remained a beacon of beauty and resilience. I raised a glass in silent toast to survival, to truth, and to the family that had endured the unimaginable and emerged stronger. And in that moment, I knew, without a doubt, that nothing could ever take away what we had built together. What would you do if someone you loved turned against you and your life was hanging in the balance?